everyone, I'm Denise Merrick and you're watching Daytime. Thank you for joining us for this Remembrance Day special. Mal Knocker from the Royal Canadian Legion Branch 43 will join us in remembering the courage and sacrifice of the veterans who have served and those who are currently serving our country. Oshawa Navy Club's Master at Arms, Brian Wilkins, will recite an incredibly touching poem called The Soldier, and Sam Mastriani will share her experience with the cadet program. Our first guest joined the Army after graduating from Kingston College. He served for 14 months in Korea and is here to share his experiences with us today. Thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome. Thank you.
What made you decide to join the Army?
Well, my father was military, and he was over in WW2 and got wounded twice. And we were living in Nitro, Quebec at the time. And he was in the hospital when he came back. But the next thing I know, he was out of the hospital home, and he was on his way to Korea. He was one of the first Canadians over there.
Wow. And so that's why you decided,
Yes.
you thought, I'd like to also go to Korea
Yes.
with him. And you
Yeah.
were there for 14 months.
That's right, yeah.
What was your job in Korea?
I was in the Signal Corps. It was actually operating a 19 and a 52 set, which for communications. The 19 was for our own little regiment, but the 52 informed all of the people, different countries, and what we were doing. So,
When you decided that you're going to Korea, were you excited to go at this point? Were you afraid?
no, I wasn't afraid. We didn't know too much about the country, and I don't think any of us had any idea.
So what was it like when you got there? So you're going to get an idea rather quickly when you land.
Yes, it was a surprise. There was hardly any paved roads, brush, not too many trees, and we arrived during rainy season, and that happens for 3 weeks at a time.
How old were you?
I was 19.
19 years old. So you were just a boy.
That's right.
And did those experiences change you? Did you grow up rather quickly?
Well, yeah, yep.
What were some of the things you saw when you were there?
Different things like during the war, you mean?
Yes.
Well, the first experience we had was kind of shaking. After we got landed in Busan itself, we took a train up to the front, and we were going across the Imjim River. And as I say, we were in rainy season, and I was sitting in the back of the truck, and it kept move forward, stop, move forward, stop. And I look out, and there was an MP there, military policeman, and I said, what's the problem? He said, well, with rainy season, the river rises about 25 feet, and it's just over the edge of the bridge now. He said, so we're only letting one truck go at a time.
Oh my goodness. That's incredible stuff.
Yep.
And we're here today to talk about remembering how many Canadians fought in the Korean War.
There was over 26,000 all total.
26,000. And how many people lost their lives?
516 were killed.
Wow. And you said there's a memorial in
Brampton.
Brampton.
Yeah, and at the Meadowvale Cemetery. And I would tell anybody, invite anyone to go have a look at it, because we built it and we did a good job too, I'll tell you.
And some people were actually prisoners of war during the Korean War too.
Yes.
What was that experience like?
I really don't know, and I don't think it'd be too good, because the North Koreans aren't known for their hospitality.
Yeah, and when you take a minute of silence on Remembrance Day and you're honoring and remembering those who served, what is it that you're thinking?
Well, I think about the 2 grandfathers and 6 uncles I had that were in the war, and of course the guys I was with over there. I know a couple got killed, but as you know, there was 516, so
Yeah.
you run across a few of them over the years, you know. We still keep in touch with some of the guys that are back. One fellow lives in Brampton, or in Pickering, and he was in our artillery outfit. I never even knew him until he got back here.
Wow. And so what do you recommend in order to help the young people continue with Remembrance Day and to really value the importance of taking that minute of silence?
Well, one thing I know, they should attend some of these services and see the families that are people are there. It's very interesting, and gives them a thought of what really happened over there. I know the schools now have a memory project, and you go in and talk to the children, and it's working pretty good, I think. So.
Wow, so tell me a little bit more about that, the Memory Project?
Yes, yep. It's a government thing, and I've done 4 schools, and tomorrow morning I got 2 classes at 9 and 10, and we go in, sit down, they bring in their students, they all, have little questions after, but I talk for about 15 minutes, and then I let them ask questions.
Oh my goodness.
And tell them about the war, yeah.
What are some of the most surprising questions?
Well, one of the first time I went with, there was a little guy, and he wanted to know how many guys I'd killed.
And your answer was?
All the time I was there, I never shot a rifle or nothing.
Oh my goodness.
See, for every frontline soldier that's in combat, there's 4 or 5 guys behind that do the things, like medical, REME guys that are doing different jobs, and they're not there doing the actual combat.
Well, thank you so much for being here and helping us to remember. Really appreciate your service to our country.
Thank you very much.
And Brian Wilkins joins us when we return, so stay with us. Welcome back to Daytime. Our next guest is the Master at Arms at the Oshawa Navy Club. His name is Brian Wilkins, and we are very fortunate to have him with us today to recite a poem called The Soldier. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And you're going to recite a very touching poem. Yeah. And tell me about where you came across this poem.
There was an ad on Kijiji for a desk that a lady was giving away. I went over and picked the desk up, and I found a poster inside the desk with this poem on it, written by a lady named Laurie Paxton in 2006. I read the poem, I bawled my eyes out, and I've tried to share it with as many people as I could since then. I've read it at the Cenotaph in Oshawa a few times, the Legion a couple times, school once.
And you said you've tried to find the writer of this poem, but with no luck as of yet.
Her name is Laurie Paxton. If you're listening to this, I would love to get a hold of her. I mean, come down to the Oshawa Navy Club and they'll contact me. She wrote it. She should be getting credit for it. It is an amazing poem.
Well, we're giving her the credit now, and why don't you go ahead and read this poem?
All right. The young man packs his duffel bag and wonders what's in store. His future looks so promising, but he's been called to war. He gives his mom a loving hug and sadly says goodbye. He does not want to let her go or see his mother cry. In the silence of his barracks, you can hear his drawn-out sigh. He is proud to serve his country, but he's so afraid to die. The air raid's haunting siren cries, the planes fly overhead. There's bombing in the distance. He sees his first blood shed. He hears his own heart beating, so cold and wet. He helplessly sees his comrades fall, a sight he won't forget. Their shadows in the darkness tries not to make a sound. A spray of gunfire lights the sky. A bullet strikes him down. Another life's been taken, so much was left unsaid. A letter not yet posted still lies upon his bed. His mother goes into his room. She sits alone and cries. Though miles across the ocean, she can sense her son has died. She's reread all his letters, so much he knows each line. He'd always say, "I love you, Mom. Don't worry, I'll be fine." She tucks one deep inside her purse, her favorite loving note. "Remember, Mom, I'll be home soon," the last words that he wrote. She walks the rows of headstones, each unmarked grave and cross, and mourns with all the families who've shared the same great loss. She placed a kiss upon his grave and spoke these words aloud. "Go rest in peace, my dear sweet son. You've served your country proud."
Wow. Thank you for sharing that poem with us today. And, you know, it's particularly important on Remembrance Day that we remember the lives that are lost, those who were injured, those who continue to serve, and all of the other lives that it affected, like the mothers, like the sisters, like the spouses.
Well, that's why we have the Silver Mother here in Canada. It's an honor that no mother wants.
Yes.
But when it does get bestowed on her, it's special.
So it's when a mother's child dies,
Yes.
then she's bestowed with this.
Yeah, I'm not sure if other countries do that or not. There's a lot that Canada, unfortunately, doesn't do for our veterans. There are a few things that they do that other countries don't do, which the Highway Heroes is one.
Yeah.
England adopted a smaller version of the Highway Heroes because of us. The United States doesn't have the same rules we do, where they come to Trenton, they have to go to the coroner's office. That's kind of unique here in Canada. But it's quite an honor. I've been on the Highway Heroes a couple of times now with the rally that we did in 2008. And to see those bridges full and the flags and the fire department and just ordinary citizens, the ambulance attendants, it's absolutely amazing. You know, and people should be proud.
And tell us about your time. You actually spent some time in Afghanistan.
Yes, in 2006, I saw it on the internet that they were looking for drivers to go over there. And I thought, as a truck driver, why not? You know, so I looked into it, and after 6 weeks of training in Kingston, I went over and I spent 6 months there. And it was an eye-opening experience. There was a lot of good. There was a lot of bad. Our troops are amazing. The men and women in the Canadian Armed Forces, all divisions, are just incredible people. What they went through over there, and there's many, many of them that were there 2 or 3 times for different tours, and they don't have to be there. They kept going back because they're dedicated to what they do. We have a unique thing with the technology we have now. You can look into a battlefield now from 30 miles away, where I can't imagine guys like Doug and Mal went through, where they had no idea what they're getting into. They would go through a hedgerow and they go into a machine gun fire, where our guys now know what's there. I mean, they still go into it,
And
but
it's
at least
still-
they have some knowledge before they go in.
Well,
you know.
thank you for sharing your story with us,
Yeah,
and
I mean,
really glad that you were here today. Thank you for your service
I
as
just
well.
want to make sure that people know what I did was nothing compared to what our troops do.
Well, thank you for being here today.
So-
And up next, we have Mal Knocker. Stay with Welcome back to Daytime. Mal Knocker joined the Canadian Forces at the age of 20. He was posted to the 2nd Battalion of the Canadian Guards and has served overseas in Germany. He joins us today with a message of remembrance, peace, and freedom. Mal, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. Glad to be here.
Tell us about your experience of serving, especially overseas.
Overseas, it was intense. Like I say, there was the Americans there, the British, the German, the Canadian Army. That was when the Cold War was just starting to escalate. Things didn't look too safe. So they had a full contingent of Canadian forces over there. And I was there for the just over 18 months. We were on standby alert all the time, waiting for something to happen, which luckily it didn't happen. But the intense training and being aware all the time, that's what we were there for. I don't know how long we would have lasted with the way they were shooting bombs around over there then, but because I was a frontline infantry, so we could do the best with all the training we had, and we were quite capable. But thank goodness it didn't happen, and everybody was over there. We all got back home safely after a year and a half.
That must be something, a year and a half of constantly having to be on alert.
Yeah.
Do you ever get rest that you need? Is there ever any point where you can relax?
Oh yes, we had downtime. We still had lots of phys ed, and we had like say weekend times. We had a hockey team and a ball team and a track team, and no, we had a recreation times too. But always on the alert and always at the ready. No matter where we were, it was always. Well, what we used to do, we used to have these here training drills. They would say, but once they come to say, no, we can't leave downtown or leave in camp for 24 hours. So 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, the sirens would go off. And every piece of equipment and vehicle in that camp and all our own personal Army gear was all packed and down the highway for a 20-minute, half-hour drive into the woods for somewhere and hide. Maybe sit there for 3 hours. And I can remember now the huts we used to stay in, there used to be the holes at the end of the wall like that. And our own people, the Ordnance Corps, before everybody's cleared camp, so the enemy, if they were close by, were coming in there, they had no compound to stay in. They used to blow all our compounds right off the map. Wow. And so they have a sit down, like say, then all of a sudden They'd come over the radios again. We'd all return back to base camp again, back to bed again. But we done that constantly, just see how fast we could go. Every piece of equipment and gear had to leave that camp. We had that down to a science.
Oh my goodness.
And dig in, so at the same time, once you got out there, you just didn't sit in the truck and wait. You started digging the fox, digging a hole, a little bit of camouflage, just sitting there with your rifle, you know, all pretending, but it was real, if that's what the case it come to. So always, the vehicles were always camouflaged, and the tanks and the armors and division. You could walk through that woods and you wouldn't see nothing until somebody booed you and scared you. You see vehicles hit all over the place.
Oh my goodness.
Everything was camouflaged right to the T.
And when you want us to remember, and you want the youth to remember, what is it specifically that we should really be considering? Because one of the things you said to me earlier before we started the interview is you said people just really are not aware of the numbers of men and women who served.
That's right. They have no idea. There's a lot of them are young men with children. That just shows you what Canada's like. When the wars broke out, they just joined up. There was no dragging people off the street. I've got pictures and documentaries, things that you can see that all joining up and going off to war to save this country. And that's what Canadians are all about. Got to be the greatest country in the world. We don't back down from nothing. We got a job to do. Get out there and do it.
And you personally don't back down. You're still in service.
And that's what I like. I like I say, that's what the peace and freedom is all about.
Yeah.
If we had a bunch of people that laid back, we wouldn't have a Canada we have today. You can see the turmoil going around the world today. Families are being mutilated, and children using them for shields in front of them. And, like, it's got to stop.
Yeah.
They got NATO doing a good job right now, and I think they're a little bit late starting, but hopefully they'll have that, within 3 or 4 months, they'll have that country cleaned up. Because the atrocities, what they're doing to them families and kids is, I can't understand how the world let them get away with it. It's terrible. It's terrible.
Well, I want to thank you for your service and for continuing to make a difference and helping us to remember on this very special day. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me. Thank you very kindly.
Up next, we have Sam Mastriani. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Daytime. The Cadet Program is a youth development organization that empowers our Canadian youth to become the leaders of tomorrow. Sergeant Sam Mastriani now joins us with her experience. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
So tell us about the Cadet Program.
So the Cadet Program is composed of 3 elements, Air, Army, and Sea, and it starts at age 12 to 18, and you learn leadership, good citizenship, good time management, and transferable skills as well.
Well, speaking of leadership, you are now a sergeant. What does it take to get to that level?
To start, you start as a recruit. Once you're finished the recruit program, you move on to AC and then all the way up to the flight corporal ranks. And those are pretty much automatic promotions until you reach sergeant. To get to be a sergeant, there's fewer positions as the ranks go up into warrant officer. But for a sergeant, you have to show good leadership. You have to be able to hold very good standards, show very good drill and other stuff like that. So.
And speaking of activities and holding drills and what you can do, you're going to be participating in, the cadets are participating, of course, in the Remembrance Day ceremony. So what do the cadets do on Remembrance Day?
So on Remembrance Day, all cadets, Air, Army, and Sea, as well as the Navy League, will be in their uniforms. We will march from the armories to the cenotaph, and there they will hold the Remembrance Day ceremony. So.
And during that minute of silence, what is it that you yourself will be remembering?
For me, I will remember I went on a trip 2 years ago to Europe, and it was honestly the most eye-opening experience. And every time that I think about it, it's almost like I'm transferred back to that point, just being able to walk the paths that our soldiers walked, to be able to see the memorials and see how much the European people just value Canadians.
And the sacrifices we have made
Of
in order for our
course,
freedom,
yes.
it's remarkable.
It's just so amazing.
And so what have you gotten so far out of being a cadet? So you've been in for 4 years now, and when you take that to your personal life, how has that shaped you?
Honestly, I've become a new person. Just being regimented and having the discipline. People think it's hard, but honestly, it's just such an amazing thing to have. It helps you overall just in your everyday life, not just through cadets, but it helps you during school, my part-time job, time management. It's just, it provides you with such amazing skills.
How many women, as opposed to young men, are in the program? Is it about 50-50?
About now, I'd probably say that it is about 50-50, although in my squadron there are more males than females, but relatively it is pretty 50-50.
And how many of those individuals actually end up going off into a military career?
From the Air Cadet program, it's not just specified that you have to go into the military, but most people use the cadet program to branch into the Canadian Armed Forces. They branch into police foundations, governmental jobs, just stuff like that. But you don't exactly have to go into a career within the military from cadets. It's not a mandatory thing. Just a lot of people do because the program is so great. They want to continue on with being regimented and having leadership.
And what do you plan on doing?
Personally, I've really thought about the military, but I don't exactly know what exactly I'll be doing because as I am 17 years old, I think it's a really big thing to look into. Just having it's going into a job, certain things like that. I mean, I would love to go into the military. I think it's great. I would love to serve my country. Canada is amazing. Although, I don't know, I want to become a lawyer, and I think that I've talked to people at RMC, and they said that my best course of route would be to become a lawyer and then come back to be a lawyer for the military.
I love that they're teaching you different options that you have and different life skills. Thank you so much for being here today. It was fabulous to see our youth and what they're doing for Canada. And that's the end of today's show. Thank you to all of our special guests for stopping by and to you at home for watching. I'm Denise Merrick, and we'll see you next time on Daytime.